February 14th, 2000. Valentine's Day. A Monday morning in Shelby, North Carolina, a small town of 20,000 people nestled in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, where everybody knows everybody and children still play outside until the streetlights come on. At 6:40 a.m., Aquila Degree calls 911 to report her daughter missing. 9-year-old Asha Degree, star point guard on her basketball team, straight A student at Falston Elementary, the shy girl with the bright smile who her community called Shelby's sweetheart, has vanished from her bedroom sometime in the pre-dawn hours. There is no sign of forced entry, no evidence of struggle, no ransom demand, no logical explanation. But there are witnesses. Between 3:45 and 4:15 that stormy morning, two separate drivers see a young black girl walking alone along Highway 18, walking south, away from her home, wearing white pants and a white long-sleeved shirt, a book bag on her back. One driver turns around to help her. The girl runs into the woods and disappears. That is the last confirmed sighting of Asha Degree. Her book bag will be found 18 months later, wrapped in double plastic garbage bags, buried 30 miles away. Inside, a New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt that doesn't belong to her, a library book checked out from her school, and DNA evidence that will take 24 years to lead investigators to persons of interest who lived less than 4 miles from where Asha was last seen. What makes this case so baffling isn't just the mystery of why a shy 9-year-old would leave her home in the middle of a thunderstorm. It's the alleged statement reportedly made at a house party in the mid-2000s, "I killed Asha Degree," a claim that couldn't be substantiated at the time, but has taken on new significance as evidence emerged. It's the text messages between 3 sisters discovered in 2024. "They think it's our shirt. Dad is probably going to be a huge suspect." This is a nightmare. It's the polygraph examinations that investigators say raised concerns, the vehicle matching witness descriptions, the genealogical DNA analysis that led to a family being named as persons of interest. It's the mother who, 25 years later, still believes her daughter is alive, who still sets a place at the table, who still says, "I'm not crazy enough to think a 9-year-old can disappear into thin air without somebody knowing something." 25 years. 3 sisters who were teenagers in 2000. A father who owned a vehicle similar to one described by witnesses. A family that became the focus of investigation in 2024, with attorneys retained and authorities pursuing what they now call a homicide investigation. The question that has haunted Shelby, North Carolina since Valentine's Day 2000. What happened to Asha Degree in those pre-dawn hours when she walked into a storm and never came home? Unsolved, unforgotten, and closer to answers than ever before. To understand why Asha Degree's disappearance shook Shelby to its core, you have to understand who Asha was and the community that raised her. August 5, 1990. Asha Degree is born to Harold and Aquila Degree at Cleveland Regional Medical Center in Shelby, North Carolina. She arrives healthy, alert, her dark eyes already curious about the world waiting for her. Harold, who works in commercial furniture production, and Aquila, an accounts payable specialist, bring their daughter home to a modest house on Oakcrest Drive in the Falston community, just north of Shelby proper. Falston isn't a wealthy area. The houses are small, single-story brick ranches built in the 1970s with carports instead of garages, chain-link fences separating small yards, basketball hoops bolted above garage doors where children practice jump shots until their mothers call them in for dinner. But it's a safe place. A community where neighbors watch out for each other's children, where doors stay unlocked, where the biggest danger is skinning your knee on the gravel driveway. Asha grows up in this environment of security and routine. Her family attends Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church in nearby Waco, a small white clapboard church where gospel music spills out on Sunday mornings and congregants know each other by name. Faith is the foundation of the Degree household. Faith in God. Faith in family. Faith that if you work hard and treat people right, good things will come. 3 years after Asha's birth, Harold and Aquila welcome their son O'Brien. The children are close despite the age gap, sharing a bedroom in the modest house where their beds sit parallel, separated by just a few feet. They can talk to each other in the darkness before sleep, the way siblings do when they feel safe enough to share secrets. Asha is shy, painfully so at first. Family members remember her hiding behind her mother's legs when strangers approached, peeking out with those watchful eyes, but saying nothing. But shyness isn't the same as lack of confidence. Asha knows who she is. She's a good student, the kind of child who brings home report cards that make parents proud, who completes homework without being asked, who raises her hand in class even when it terrifies her because she knows the answer and wants to contribute. By 4th grade, February 2000, Asha attends Falston Elementary School, a single-story brick building that serves kindergarten through 5th grade for the community. Her teachers describe her as conscientious, well-behaved, bright. She's not the loudest student, but she's one of the most reliable. If you give Asha Degree an assignment, it will be completed on time, neatly written, thoroughly researched. She's also an athlete. Despite her small frame, at 9 years old, she stands just 4 feet, 6 inches tall, weighing less than 70 pounds. Asha is a star point guard on the Little Misses basketball team. Point guards need to be smart, to see the court, to make decisions faster than defenders can react. Asha has that gift. She can dribble past players twice her size, find open teammates with bounce passes that thread through defensive gaps, sink free throws when the pressure is highest. Her teammates adore her. In a sport where egos can dominate even at youth levels, Asha is the player who celebrates others' baskets as loudly as her own. She's the one who stays after practice to help younger players with their form. She's the one who cries when her team loses, not from selfishness, but because she feels responsible, because she wanted so badly to help her teammates succeed. Harold and Aquila are devoted parents. They work long hours, Harold at his furniture company, Aquila managing accounts, but they are present for every basketball game, every school event, every church service. On Valentine's Day 2000, they will have been married exactly 15 years. February 14th is their wedding anniversary, a day that should be about celebration and love. Instead, it will become the day their lives split into before and after. The weekend before Asha's disappearance is filled with the ordinary rhythms of family life. Friday, February 11th, Cleveland County schools are closed for a teacher workday. Since Harold and Aquila still have to work, the children spend the day with their Aunt Alicia, who lives just down the street. It's a common arrangement in Falston, where extended family provides childcare and everyone looks out for everyone else's kids. That afternoon, both Asha and O'Brien attend their scheduled basketball practices at Falston Elementary. The gym smells like floor wax and rubber soles squeaking on polished wood. Coaches run the kids through drills, layup lines, defensive slides, passing patterns. Asha is focused, serious, making mental notes about plays they'll need to execute in tomorrow's game. Saturday, February 12th, game day. The Little Misses play at Burns Middle School, and the gym fills with parents, siblings, and community members who have come to watch these 9- and 10-year-old girls compete. Asha's team has been undefeated all season. They're confident, synchronized, playing with the kind of chemistry that makes coaching look easy. But this game is different. The opposing team has studied them, found their weaknesses, exploited defensive gaps. And Asha, steady, reliable Asha, fouls out in the 4th quarter. 5 fouls, the maximum allowed, forcing her to sit on the bench while her teammates try to hold on to a lead that's evaporating with every possession. The final buzzer sounds. The Little Misses have lost their first game of the season. By 1 point. Asha is devastated. She cries openly, her small shoulders shaking with sobs. Her teammates cry too, all of them crushed by this first taste of defeat. But for Asha, the loss feels personal. She fouled out. She let her team down. She wasn't good enough when it mattered most. Aquila remembers her daughter's distress. She holds Asha, tells her that one game doesn't define a season, that mistakes are how we learn, that her team still loves her and values her. Asha eventually calms down, wipes her tears, watches O'Brien's game later that afternoon. By evening, she seems to have recovered. She plays with her brother, laughs at dinner, appears to have moved past the disappointment. Or so it seems. Sunday, February 13th. The family attends services at Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church. The congregation sings hymns that rise to the raftered ceiling, voices blending in harmonies that have comforted this community for generations. Asha sits between her parents, small hands folded in her lap, absorbing the sermon about faith and perseverance. After church, the family has lunch at a relative's house. Asha is in good spirits, animated even. Her grandmother Joanne gives her Valentine's Day candy a day early, heart-shaped boxes of chocolates and conversation hearts with messages printed on them. Asha's face lights up with the pure, uncomplicated joy of a 9-year-old receiving candy. The family returns home in the afternoon. Evening settles over Falston with the gentle quiet of a Sunday night. Homework completed, clothes laid out for school tomorrow, the comfortable routine of a family preparing for another week. Around 8 p.m., both Asha and O'Brien go to bed in the room they share. Asha has been lying on the sofa earlier, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, but she changes into her nightgown before climbing into bed, a white nightgown with red trim and a teddy bear printed on the front. It's soft, comfortable, the kind of pajamas a mother picks out for a daughter who deserves to feel safe and warm while she sleeps. At 9 p.m., the power goes out. A car accident on a nearby road has taken out a transformer, plunging the neighborhood into darkness. This isn't particularly unusual in rural North Carolina, where storms and accidents regularly interrupt electrical service. Harold lights candles. The family waits. The power comes back on at 12:30 a.m., now technically Monday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Harold checks on his children and sees both Asha and O'Brien asleep in their beds. Everything is as it should be. He returns to his own room. At 2:30 a.m., Harold checks again before going to sleep himself. Both children are still in their beds, breathing the slow, steady rhythm of deep sleep. He closes their bedroom door softly, careful not to wake them. Sometime shortly after 2:30 a.m., O'Brien hears Asha's bed squeak. He doesn't open his eyes, doesn't call out to her. He assumes she's just shifting positions in her sleep, maybe rolling over to find a more comfortable angle. The bed squeaks again. Then silence. O'Brien drifts back to sleep, unaware that his sister has just gotten out of bed, grabbed a book bag she had packed earlier, and walked out of the house into a thunderstorm. Between 2:30 a.m. and 6:30 a.m., Asha Degree leaves her home on Oakcrest Drive, walks approximately 1.3 miles south along Highway 18, and vanishes in circumstances that will haunt investigators for 25 years. When Aquila enters the children's bedroom at 6:30 a.m. to wake them for school, she finds O'Brien still sleeping. Asha's bed is empty. The covers are thrown back, as if someone got up quickly or with purpose. But there's no note, no sign of struggle, nothing to explain where Shelby's sweetheart has gone. Sound, alarm clock ringing, footsteps down a hallway, a door opening. Aquila's first thought is practical. Maybe Asha is in the bathroom. She checks. Empty. Maybe she woke up early and went to the kitchen. Empty. Maybe she's outside. But the doors were locked from the inside. If Asha left through a door, she would have had to unlock it first. By 6:40 a.m., panic has fully set in. Aquila wakes Harold. They search the house together, calling Asha's name, checking closets and under beds, places a 9-year-old might hide if she were playing some strange game. But this isn't a game. Asha isn't giggling in a hiding spot waiting to be found. Her book bag is gone. That detail lodges in Aquila's mind like a splinter. If Asha had sleepwalked or wandered out in confusion, she wouldn't have taken her book bag. If she had been abducted, whoever took her likely wouldn't have given her time to grab her belongings. The fact that the book bag is missing suggests planning, preparation, intention. At 6:40 a.m., Aquila makes the call that will transform their lives forever. Cleveland County 911. My baby's gone. Within minutes, patrol cars are pulling up to the modest house on Oakcrest Drive. Deputies begin the systematic process of securing what might be a crime scene, interviewing family members, establishing timelines, looking for any detail that might explain what happened to a 9-year-old girl between 2:30 and 6:30 on a stormy February morning. What they don't know yet, what won't be reported until later that afternoon, is that Asha didn't simply vanish. She was seen. Two witnesses saw her walking alone along Highway 18 in the pre-dawn darkness, wearing white pants and a white long-sleeved shirt, a book bag on her back, walking with purpose away from home and towards something or someone that remains unknown to this day. On the early morning of February 14th, 2000, two of these drivers will see something that defies explanation. Jeff Rupp, a truck driver making a pre-dawn delivery run, is heading north on Highway 18 around 3:45 a.m. when his headlights illuminate a small figure walking on the shoulder of the road. It's raining, not a downpour, but a steady, cold rain that soaks through clothes and turns breath to visible mist. The figure is small, child-sized, wearing light-colored clothing that reflects in his headlights. Rupp slows his truck, confused. What is a child doing out here? At this hour? In this weather? He watches the figure in his rearview mirror as he passes, and his confusion deepens. The child, it has to be a child, based on the size, is walking south, away from Shelby, away from any residential area where a family might live. Rupp considers stopping. But it's 3:45 in the morning, he's in an 18-wheeler, and approaching a lone child on a dark highway might terrify them more than help them. He decides to call it in when he reaches his destination. But the image stays with him. That small figure, walking alone, the rain falling steady and cold. Approximately 30 minutes later, around 4:15 a.m., another driver is traveling south on Highway 18. This driver, whose name has been withheld but whose account was given to investigators, also sees the small figure. By now, the child has walked further south, putting more distance between herself and home. This driver makes a different decision. He turns his vehicle around, concerned about the child's safety, and drives back to offer help. His headlights sweep across the shoulder of the road where he saw the figure moments before. The child is running now, running off the shoulder, into the woods that border Highway 18, disappearing into the tree line where headlights cannot follow. The driver stops his vehicle, considers going after the child on foot. But something about the situation feels wrong. A child running from help, fleeing into woods in the middle of the night. It could be an abduction in progress, a kidnapping victim trying to escape but too traumatized to trust anyone. Or it could be something else, something the driver cannot quite articulate, but which makes him decide that calling police is safer than pursuing a terrified child into dark woods. Later that afternoon, after Asha has been reported missing, after the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office has begun canvassing the area, after missing person posters with Asha's photo have started appearing on telephone poles, both drivers will see news coverage and realize what they witnessed. They will call the tip line and provide detailed accounts of where and when they saw the child on Highway 18. Investigators will confirm the timing matches, the location matches, the description, small child, light, colored clothing, book bag, matches. The drivers saw Asha Degree. There is no doubt. But this confirmation raises more questions than it answers. Because if Asha was walking south on Highway 18 between 3:45 and 4:15 a.m., that means several impossible things must be true. First, Asha left her home willingly. She packed a book bag, got dressed, changing out of her nightgown into white pants and a white long-sleeved shirt, walked out of her house, somehow unlocking doors without making noise, and set off on foot. Second, she knew where she was going. Asha wasn't wandering aimlessly. Multiple witnesses describe her walking with purpose, heading south, staying on the shoulder of Highway 18 like someone following a specific route to a specific destination. Third, she chose to go at night, in a storm, alone. This isn't the behavior of a child sleepwalking or confused. This is deliberate, planned, intentional. Fourth, when offered help, she ran. This suggests either extreme fear or knowledge that she was doing something she shouldn't be doing, or that someone had told her not to trust adults, not to accept help, to keep going no matter what. None of this makes sense for Asha Degree, the shy 9-year-old who hid behind her mother's legs when strangers approached, the conscientious student who followed rules and completed homework on time, the girl whose family describes as responsible, careful, someone who wouldn't do something this reckless without an extraordinarily compelling reason. Investigators immediately focus on the route between Asha's home on Oakcrest Drive and where she was last seen on Highway 18. The distance is 1.3 miles. For an adult walking at a brisk pace, this takes about 20 minutes. For a 9-year-old child, in the dark, in the rain, unfamiliar with navigating roads alone at night, it might take 30 to 40 minutes. If O'Brien heard Asha's bed squeak around 2:30 a.m., and witnesses saw her at 3:45 a.m., the timeline fits. Asha had enough time to walk from home to Highway 18, assuming she walked directly and didn't stop or detour. But why that route? Highway 18 runs roughly parallel to Oakcrest Drive, but is separated by residential streets and yards. To reach Highway 18 from her home, Asha would have had to walk through neighborhoods, cross streets, navigate in darkness. She would have had to know where she was going. Search teams descend on Falston and the Highway 18 corridor within hours of the report. By afternoon on February 14th, over 200 volunteers are combing through woods, checking drainage ditches, searching abandoned buildings, looking for any sign of Asha Degree. They find something. Approximately 1.3 miles from Asha's home, right in the area where the second driver saw the child running into the woods, investigators discover a shed at Turner's Upholstery, a small business that sits near Highway 18. The shed is unlocked, a storage building containing tools, equipment, and miscellaneous items. Inside, they find several of Asha's belongings. A hairbow that Aquila immediately recognizes. Candy wrappers, the conversation hearts and chocolates that Asha's grandmother had given her the day before. A pencil and marker from her book bag. These items tell a story. Asha reached this shed, took shelter from the rain, perhaps ate some candy while deciding what to do next. But then she left. The book bag itself isn't there. Most of her belongings aren't there. She only stopped briefly before continuing, somewhere. Where was she going? Investigators interview everyone who might know. Family members, teachers, basketball coaches, classmates, neighbors. They ask about Asha's state of mind, any troubles at home or school, anyone who might have been paying unusual attention to her. The answers are unanimous. Asha had no reason to run away. Her home life was stable and loving. She was doing well in school. She had friends. Yes, she was upset about fouling out of the basketball game on Saturday, but by Sunday that disappointment seemed to have passed. And even if it hadn't, even if Asha was still distressed about the loss, 9-year-olds don't respond to sports disappointments by walking alone into storms in the middle of the night. There had to be another explanation. Someone had to have convinced her to leave. Someone had to have promised her something, lured her with something compelling enough to overcome her natural shyness and caution. But who? The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit will later note that Asha's behavior shows signs of grooming, the process by which predators build trust with children, gradually normalizing inappropriate requests until the child complies with increasingly dangerous demands. A groomer might spend weeks or months befriending a child, giving them gifts, making them feel special, creating a secret relationship that the child feels they must protect. Then, when the moment is right, the groomer makes their move. Meet me at this time. Don't tell anyone. If you don't come, something bad will happen to someone you love. Children who have been groomed often leave voluntarily. They pack bags. They walk to predetermined meeting points. They follow instructions because they believe the groomer cares about them, or because they've been threatened, or because they've been made to feel responsible for protecting others. Is this what happened to Asha? Did someone, an adult with access to her life, spend months building trust, preparing her for this moment? If so, who? Investigators compile a list of every adult who had regular contact with Asha. Teachers, coaches, church members, family friends, neighbors. Background checks are run. Alibis are verified. Interviews are conducted. And no one stands out. No one has a history of sex offenses. No one behaves suspiciously when questioned. No one can be placed near Highway 18 at 4 a.m. on February 14th. The search continues throughout Valentine's Day and into the following days. Helicopters with thermal imaging fly grid patterns over Cleveland County, looking for heat signatures in woods and fields. Search dogs follow scent trails that lead to Highway 18 and then stop. as if Asha climbed into a vehicle and disappeared. By February 22nd, 8 days after Asha's disappearance, Cleveland County Sheriff Dan Crawford holds a news conference to announce they're going long-range with the search. Both the FBI and North Carolina's State Bureau of Investigation are fully involved, adding Asha to their databases of missing children and deploying additional resources. But even as the search expands, the fundamental mystery remains. Why did Asha leave? And where is she now? SBI agent Bart Burpo tells reporters, she's not your typical runaway. Ben Ermanai from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children notes that most children who run away are at least 12 years old. An FBI agent points to the lack of an issue she might have been running away from, such as a dysfunctional family or poor academic performance. Everything about Asha's disappearance defies the patterns investigators expect. And in those early days and weeks, as February turns to March and March turns to April, hope begins to give way to a terrible, creeping certainty. Something bad has happened to Asha Degree, and whoever is responsible has left almost no evidence behind. Almost none. The spring and summer of 2000 pass in a blur of investigative dead ends and slowly fading hope. Asha's face appears on missing person posters throughout North Carolina and neighboring states. Her case is featured on local news broadcasts, national missing children's databases, and eventually on larger media platforms seeking to generate tips. Harold and Aquila Degree become fixtures at press conferences and community vigils. They refuse to give up, refuse to accept that their daughter is gone forever. Aquila's statement becomes a refrain repeated at every opportunity. I fully expect her to walk through the door. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office maintains an active investigation, but without new leads, there's little forward movement. Detectives review the evidence again and again, the timeline of Asha's walk, the items found in the Turner upholstery shed, the witness statements from the two drivers on Highway 18. They interview and re-interview anyone who might have information. But the case goes cold. Not officially closed. It will never be officially closed, but the daily intensity of the investigation fades into periodic review. Detectives work other cases. Media attention shifts to newer tragedies. And Asha Degree becomes another name on the long, heartbreaking list of children who disappeared without explanation. Then, on August 3, 2001, 18 months after Asha vanished, construction workers digging an access road for a new home near Morganton, North Carolina, make a discovery that will reignite the investigation. Morganton is approximately 30 miles north of Shelby, in neighboring Burke County. The construction crew is using heavy equipment to clear land and excavate for road construction. One of the workers' shovels strikes something that doesn't belong in rural North Carolina soil, something wrapped in black plastic garbage bags. The worker pulls the package from the dirt. It's not large, roughly the size and shape of a child's book bag. The black plastic is secured with care, double-wrapped, sealed to protect the contents from moisture and decomposition. The worker calls his supervisor. The supervisor calls local police. And when Burke County Sheriff's deputies carefully cut open the bags, they find exactly what the shape suggested: a book bag. A small book bag with cartoon characters on it. A child's book bag. Inside are items that have been preserved remarkably well by the double layer of plastic: school supplies, pencils, notebooks, a Dr. Seuss book, and two items that don't immediately make sense: a concert t-shirt for New Kids on the Block and a library book checked out from Falston Elementary School. The library book provides the crucial identification. It had been checked out under Asha Degree's name. This is her book bag. This is the bag she was carrying when she walked down Highway 18 months ago. The discovery raises urgent questions. First, how did Asha's book bag end up 30 miles north of where she was last seen? The last confirmed sighting was on Highway 18 south of Shelby. Morganton is in the opposite direction. Someone drove north with this book bag and buried it carefully, with intention, taking care to preserve it from the elements. Second, why was it wrapped and buried? If someone found the book bag abandoned on a roadside, they would likely turn it into police or simply leave it where it lay. Carefully wrapping it in double garbage bags and burying it suggests someone who knew what it represented, evidence of a crime, and wanted to hide it while perhaps not being able to bring themselves to destroy it completely. Third, when was it buried? Construction workers believe the site had been undisturbed for years, meaning the book bag was likely buried shortly after Asha's disappearance, not recently. This suggests whoever buried it knew where Asha was or what happened to her within days or weeks of February 14, 2000. Fourth, what about the contents? The Dr. Seuss book and school supplies make sense. These are items Asha would pack if preparing for an overnight stay or planning to do homework. But the New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt? New Kids on the Block was a boy band that peaked in popularity in the late 1980s and early 1990s. By 2000, they were no longer actively touring, and 9-year-old girls were more likely to be fans of newer acts like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. The shirt wasn't Asha's. Aquila confirmed she had never seen it before. So whose was it? Investigators believe the shirt might belong to whoever Asha was meeting. Perhaps it was given to her as a gift, or she was told to bring it, or it was planted in her bag by whoever took her. The shirt becomes a crucial piece of evidence, featured in press releases asking the public, "Do you recognize this shirt? Did you or someone you know own this shirt in 2000? The book bag is sent to the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation's Crime Lab for detailed forensic analysis. This is 2001, and DNA technology has advanced significantly since 2000. Touch DNA, genetic material left behind by skin cells when someone handles an object, can now be recovered and analyzed. Forensic scientists carefully process the book bag, the items inside, and the garbage bags that wrapped it. They recovered DNA samples from multiple surfaces. Most belong to Asha herself, but there are others. Foreign DNA, genetic material from individuals who touch these items. The samples are compared to known databases. No matches. The DNA doesn't belong to anyone in the FBI's CODIS system, the National Database of Criminal Offenders. This suggests whoever handled Asha's book bag had no prior criminal record requiring DNA collection. The samples are preserved, carefully cataloged, and stored with the hope that someday, maybe years in the future, technology will advance enough to identify these unknown individuals. That someday is still decades away. In the years following the book bag discovery, the Asha Degree case cycles through periods of renewed attention and long silences. Every few years, on the anniversary of her disappearance, local media runs stories. Harold and Aquila give interviews, always making the same plea. Someone knows something. Someone saw something. Someone, please, come forward. In 2008, the Degree family establishes a scholarship in Asha's name for a deserving local student. It's a way to transform grief into something positive, to ensure that Asha's memory contributes to her community's future. They also host an annual walk to raise awareness and funds for their ongoing search. The walk starts at their home and ends at a missing persons billboard on Highway 18, near where Asha was last seen. Originally held on February 14th, both Valentine's Day and the Degree's wedding anniversary. The date is later changed to February 7th and then February 6th. Harold and Aquila don't want to make Valentine's Day a somber occasion for the volunteers who participate. That's the kind of consideration that defines this family. Even in their deepest grief, they think about others' feelings. The Degree home becomes a shrine to Asha. Her bedroom remains preserved exactly as she left it. Pictures of her decorate walls throughout the house, school photos, basketball team pictures, candid shots of a smiling 9-year-old who had no idea her life would be cut short. Age progression images created by forensic artists show what Asha might look like at 13, 16, 18, 21. But these computerized predictions feel hollow to Aquila, who insists, "I fully expect her to walk through the door." In 2013, Aquila grants an interview to Jet magazine where she addresses something that has bothered her for years. Her disappearance had not gotten as much media attention over the years as some subsequent cases of missing children because Asha was black. She's right. The phenomenon of missing white woman syndrome, the media's disproportionate coverage of missing white females compared to missing people of color, is well documented. Elizabeth Smart, Natalie Holloway, JonBenet Ramsey, these names become household recognition. But Asha Degree, Relisha Rudd, Alexis Patterson, these black girls disappear with far less national attention, far fewer resources dedicated to finding them. Aquila isn't being bitter. She's stating a fact, and her statement helps spark conversations about equity in media coverage and investigative resources for missing children of color. In 2016, 16 years after Asha's disappearance, the FBI announces a potential breakthrough. They release information about a vehicle of interest, a dark green car from the early 1970s, possibly a Lincoln Mark IV or Ford Thunderbird with rust spots. Investigators believe Asha may have gotten into this vehicle on the morning of her disappearance. Where did this information come from? Investigators won't say specifically, but it's likely connected to witness statements that were either recently obtained or recently reevaluated. Someone saw something on February 14, 2000. Someone saw a green car near Highway 18 around the time Asha was walking. Someone saw a child getting into that car. Sheriff Alan Norman tells reporters, it was occupied 2 times on the day of her disappearance, and it had been discovered by legwork by the sheriff's office investigators along with the federal government. Occupied 2 times is an interesting phrase. It suggests the car was seen in 2 different locations or at 2 different times that day. Perhaps once near Shelby, where Asha might have gotten in, and once somewhere else, maybe near Morganton, where her book bag would later be found. The announcement generates hundreds of tips. People report old green cars they remember from 2000, vehicles owned by neighbors or family members, cars they saw in the area around the time of Asha's disappearance. Investigators follow every lead, but none result in an arrest. In 2017, a special FBI team recreates the early morning of Asha's disappearance, walking the route she took, documenting sight lines too, and potential witness locations, trying to identify anyone who might have seen something but never reported it. They produce a detailed map showing every residence, business, and vehicle that could have been present between 2:30 and 4:15 a.m. on February 14, 2000. In 2018, Aquila celebrates her 60th birthday. Asha would have been 27. I fully expect her to walk through the door, Aquila says again, the same words she's been saying for 18 years. In 2020, the 20th anniversary of Asha's disappearance, the COVID-19 pandemic prevents the annual commemorative walk. But the Degree family holds a virtual vigil, streaming live to supporters across the country who have followed the case for 2 decades. The reward for information leading to Asha's recovery now stands at $45,000, contributed by multiple agencies and private donors. 20 years. Harold and Aquila are now in their 60s. O'Brien is 30, with a life and career of his own, though he will never escape being Asha Degree's brother. The community has changed. Many of the original investigators have retired. Many of the teachers who knew Asha have moved on. Many of the classmates who played basketball with her are now adults with children of their own. But Shelby hasn't forgotten. Every February, Asha's name returns to local news. Every year, someone shares her story on social media, keeping the case alive in the public consciousness. And every year, investigators quietly continue working leads, interviewing potential witnesses, waiting for the breakthrough that feels perpetually out of reach. That breakthrough is coming. But it will take advanced DNA technology, genealogical databases, and a family whose decades-old secrets are about to be exposed by science they never imagined would catch up to them. For 2 decades, Asha Degree's case remained frustratingly cold. Evidence existed: DNA samples from her book bag, hair fibers from her undershirt, the mysterious concert T-shirt, but technology hadn't advanced enough to extract meaningful leads from these items. Then, in the early 2020s, everything changed. A relatively new investigative technique began revolutionizing cold case investigations: forensic genetic genealogy. This is the same technology that identified the Golden State Killer in 2018, comparing crime scene DNA to public genealogy databases, identifying distant relatives, then using traditional investigation to narrow down to specific individuals of interest. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, working with the FBI and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, decided to apply this technique to the DNA samples recovered from Asha's book bag in 2001. The samples had been preserved carefully for over 2 decades, waiting for technology to advance enough to potentially identify their sources. Forensic genealogists uploaded the unknown DNA profiles to genealogical databases. According to law enforcement sources, the results identified several distant genetic matches, people who share common ancestors. Then came the painstaking work of building family trees, identifying which branches lead to individuals who would have been living in Cleveland County in February 2000. Law enforcement has confirmed that this genealogical work led to specific persons of interest, though their identities have not been officially released publicly by authorities. For legal and ethical reasons, we will not name individuals who have not been charged with any crime. It's important to note, DNA on clothing can be transferred in innocent ways, through casual contact, shared spaces, or secondary transfer. The presence of DNA does not necessarily indicate involvement in a crime. However, in the context of a missing child case, any DNA match requires thorough investigation. Investigators began examining connections between persons of interest and Asha Degree, including vehicle ownership records, phone records, and other documentation from February 2000. In 2016, the FBI had identified a dark green 1970s model Ford Thunderbird as a vehicle of interest, a car similar to one reportedly seen in the area around the time of Asha's disappearance. Investigators have stated that this vehicle type is part of their ongoing inquiry. The New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt found in Asha's book bag continues to be examined by investigators. The band's peak popularity in the late 1980s and early 1990s provides some timeline context, but the shirt's origin has never been definitively established. Over the years, investigators have also followed up on various tips and allegations that emerged in the community. As with any long-running case, some claims have proven credible while others have not. All information is evaluated carefully before being incorporated into the investigation. On September 4, 2024, nearly 25 years after Asha's disappearance, the FBI and Cleveland County Sheriff's Office executed search warrants at multiple properties in Cleveland County as part of the ongoing investigation. Over a dozen agents and officers spent hours searching locations, seizing potential evidence for examination. The searches made headlines across North Carolina. After decades of relative quiet, the Asha Degree case was suddenly active again in a visible way. Law enforcement has not disclosed the identities of the property owners or what, if anything, was found during these searches. Court documents remain sealed, citing the ongoing nature of the investigation. Various media outlets have published claims from unnamed sources about electronic communications, polygraph examinations, and other investigative details. We cannot verify these reports. Without official confirmation from law enforcement or court documents, such claims remain unsubstantiated and should not be treated as established facts. It's important to emphasize, polygraph examinations, even if conducted, are not admissible as evidence in court. They are investigative tools with significant reliability concerns. Many innocent people show deceptive responses due to anxiety, while some guilty individuals pass. Polygraph results prove nothing about guilt or innocence. By early 2025, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office made a significant announcement. Asha Degree's case is now officially being investigated as a homicide. For 25 years, she had been classified as a missing person, with hope maintained that she might still be alive. Based on the totality of evidence gathered over 2.5 decades, investigators now believe Asha did not survive her disappearance. Sheriff Alan Norman told reporters, "We have worked this case continuously for 25 years. We now have evidence that allows us to classify this as a homicide investigation. We are working to build a case that can be successfully prosecuted." He did not name any suspects publicly. No charges have been filed in connection with Asha Degree's disappearance. Under American law, All individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. In February 2025, on the 25th anniversary of Asha's disappearance, the FBI increased the reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction to $70,000. Combined with existing rewards from the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office and private donors, the total now exceeds $100,000. More importantly, the FBI released a statement. We believe there are individuals who may have information about what happened to Asha Degree on February 14, 2000. We believe some of these individuals may be ready to come forward. We urge anyone with information to contact us immediately. Cooperation at this stage will be taken into consideration. That last sentence is significant. Cooperation at this stage will be taken into consideration. This is the language prosecutors often use when they're willing to negotiate with potential witnesses, reduce charges, immunity, or plea agreements in exchange for truthful testimony. Who might such cooperation involve? Perhaps friends or acquaintances who heard things over the years. Perhaps relatives who may have knowledge but were afraid to speak. Perhaps individuals who were peripherally involved in events but not primary actors. As of this recording, no arrests have been made. The investigation remains active and ongoing. We respect the legal process and will not speculate about potential suspects or outcomes. Any persons of interest in this case have the presumption of innocence. Being investigated does not equal guilt. Following legal advice to remain silent is a constitutional right and should never be interpreted as evidence of wrongdoing. The case appears to be at a critical juncture. After 25 years of uncertainty, investigators believe they may finally have leads that could bring resolution. Whether the evidence will prove sufficient to bring charges, and whether any charges would result in convictions, remains to be seen. The legal process takes time, often years from investigation to trial. Rushing to judgment or making accusations before charges are filed can actually harm the investigation and jeopardize any future prosecution. For now, the focus remains on Asha, a 9-year-old girl who deserves justice, and a family that deserves answers. For 25 years, investigators, journalists, and those following the case have proposed theories about what happened to Asha Degree. Some are grounded in evidence and logic. Others venture into speculation. Let's examine the most discussed scenarios, keeping in mind that without charges filed or a trial, the truth remains uncertain. Theory 1. Asha ran away. This was the initial working theory in the early days of the investigation, that Asha, upset about fouling out of her basketball game, decided to run away from home. Evidence that initially suggested this possibility. Asha packed a book bag with clothes and supplies, suggesting some planning. She left voluntarily, no signs of forced entry or struggle at her home. She was walking with apparent purpose along Highway 18. Children sometimes react to disappointments in unexpected ways. Why this theory has been largely abandoned. 9-year-olds rarely run away over sports losses, especially when the disappointment appeared to have passed by Sunday. Asha had no history of behavioral problems and no apparent reason to flee a loving home. Her personality was shy and cautious. She would likely be terrified to walk alone at night. If running away, the choice of items, school supplies, a Dr. Seuss book, seems unusual. She was walking south on Highway 18, away from any known relatives or friends' homes. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit concluded Asha's behavior is inconsistent with typical runaway patterns. Assessment. This theory doesn't adequately explain the evidence. Most experts consider this highly unlikely. Theory 2. Grooming and luring. This theory, considered plausible by the FBI and behavioral experts, suggests that Asha may have been groomed by someone over an extended period, then lured out of her home on the night of her disappearance. How grooming typically works. A predator identifies a vulnerable child and builds trust gradually through compliments, gifts, and special attention. They create a secret relationship, making the child feel chosen and special. They normalize increasingly inappropriate requests, testing boundaries. Finally, they may convince the child to meet them secretly, often with promises or threats. Evidence that could support this theory. Asha left voluntarily and with preparation, potentially suggesting she believed she was going somewhere safe or meeting someone she trusted. She had her book bag packed with specific items. The New Kids on the Block shirt in her book bag didn't belong to her, possibly given by someone or requested to be brought. When the second driver tried to help her, Asha ran, possibly because someone warned her not to trust strangers. Her behavior could be consistent with following instructions from someone. Challenges with this theory. In the original 2000 investigation, no adult in Asha's life raised red flags. No evidence of secret communications or suspicious relationships was found. Teachers, coaches, church members were all interviewed and cleared. It would be difficult for a predator to access Asha without her parents noticing. Why recent developments have renewed interest in this theory. If the individuals who groomed Asha were not adult authority figures, but rather teenagers or young people closer to Asha's age, the dynamics would be different. Teenage girls befriending a younger child might not raise the same alarm bells as adult men. Such friendships could develop at school, church, or community events without necessarily drawing parental concern. Assessment. This remains a viable theory, particularly in light of recent investigative focus. However, it remains unproven. Theory 3. Accidental death and cover-up. This theory suggests that whatever happened to Asha began as something other than murder, perhaps an accident or a situation that spiraled out of control, and then became a cover-up. Possible scenario. Asha could have been lured out by someone she knew, possibly with innocent-seeming promises. After getting into a vehicle, something could have gone wrong. An argument, a struggle, a fall, or an undiagnosed medical condition. Faced with a tragedy, the responsible parties might have panicked and made the catastrophic decision to hide what happened rather than seek help. Evidence that might support this theory. The unverified alleged statement at a party could reflect guilt over an accidental death rather than premeditated murder, though again, this allegation is unconfirmed and highly questionable. The careful burial of the book bag, wrapped in plastic, might suggest someone who couldn't bring themselves to destroy all evidence, possibly out of guilt. Young people are more likely to panic and make terrible decisions in crisis situations. This could explain why there's no evidence of other victims. If it was an accident, there might not be a pattern of predatory behavior. Problems with this theory. It requires believing that multiple people could keep such a secret for 25 years. The deliberate nature of certain actions, burying evidence miles away, successful disposal of remains, suggests planning rather than panic. Accidental deaths typically result in bodies being found eventually. Assessment. This is theoretically possible, but requires accepting that an accident led to an extraordinarily effective cover-up maintained for a quarter century. It remains speculation without confirmed evidence. Theory 4. Premeditated harm. Based on the shift to a homicide investigation, law enforcement may be pursuing a theory that Asha was deliberately harmed. The scenario investigators may be considering. Please note, this is a hypothetical reconstruction based on publicly available information about the investigation's focus. It has not been proven and should not be taken as established fact. If this theory is correct, it might have unfolded something like this. In the weeks or months before February 14, 2000, Asha could have been befriended by someone who gradually built trust with her. This might have happened through school, church, community events, or other social connections. For a shy 9-year-old, attention from older individuals could have been particularly impactful. This person or persons might have convinced Asha to sneak out of her house on the night of February 13th to 14th, possibly giving her specific instructions: what to pack, what to wear, where to walk, what time to arrive, and not to tell anyone. They might have promised something exciting or threatened consequences if she didn't comply. If Asha followed such instructions, she would have packed her bag, changed clothes, left her house quietly, and walked to a predetermined location. If a vehicle was waiting there, she might have gotten in willingly, believing she was going somewhere safe. What happened after that remains unknown. Asha never came home. Her remains have never been found despite extensive searches. Her book bag was discovered buried 30 miles away, carefully wrapped to preserve it. The motive question. This is perhaps the most difficult aspect to understand. If this scenario is accurate, why would someone harm Asha? Investigators have not revealed any suspected motive. Possibilities that have been discussed in the true crime community include 1. An assault that went wrong, with Asha killed to ensure silence. 2. A situation that escalated beyond anyone's original intention. 3. Some other circumstance that has not been publicly disclosed. Evidence that might support this theory. DNA evidence potentially linking specific individuals to Asha's belongings, though DNA can be transferred innocently. Ownership of a vehicle matching witness descriptions, though many people own similar vehicles. The unverified allegations, though these remain unconfirmed. The FBI's classification of the case as a homicide. The location and condition of the book bag burial. The investigative focus on specific individuals. Significant problems with this theory. No charges have been filed, suggesting evidence may have limitations. Alternative explanations for the DNA and other evidence may exist. The theory relies on unverified allegations and unnamed sources. It requires accepting that multiple people maintained absolute silence for 25 years. The question of how remains were disposed of so completely remains unanswered. Assessment. This appears to be the theory law enforcement is pursuing based on their actions and statements. However, it remains unproven. In the American legal system, a theory, no matter how compelling to investigators, must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in court. Until charges are filed and evidence is tested in a legal proceeding, this remains an investigative hypothesis, not an established fact. Theory 5. Asha is still alive. Aquila Degree has maintained for 25 years that she believes Asha is still alive. This isn't delusion. It's a mother's hope that refuses to die, the instinct that she would somehow know if her daughter was gone. Could Asha still be alive? In the most optimistic scenario, Asha could have been taken not to be harmed, but to be kept, perhaps involving human trafficking, illegal adoption, or a deeply disturbed individual who wanted a child. In this scenario, Asha might be alive somewhere under a different identity. Why some hold on to this possibility? Asha's body has never been found despite extensive searches. Cases exist of children found alive decades after abduction: J.C. Dugard, Elizabeth Smart, Sean Hornbeck. The preservation of the book bag might suggest someone who couldn't destroy all evidence because Asha was still alive. Until remains are found, there is always a chance, however small. Why experts consider this extremely unlikely? Asha was 9 years old in 2000, old enough to remember her identity and family. In an age of social media and internet connectivity, keeping a kidnapped child hidden for 25 years would be extraordinarily difficult. The FBI's classification of this as a homicide investigation suggests they have evidence indicating Asha did not survive. No credible sightings of Asha have ever been confirmed despite nationwide alerts and age progression images. The totality of evidence points away from this scenario. Assessment. While we must respect Aquila's hope, no parent should have to give up on their child, and acknowledge that miracles can happen, the evidence available suggests Asha likely did not survive February 14, 2000. However, without remains, absolute certainty is impossible. The current state of the investigation. 25 years after Asha Degree walked out of her home into a rainy night, her case remains officially unsolved. Investigators believe they have identified persons of interest, but no charges have been filed. DNA evidence, witness statements, and forensic analysis have pointed the investigation in a specific direction, but whether that evidence will prove sufficient for prosecution remains unknown. What we know for certain: Asha left her home voluntarily in the early morning hours of February 14, 2000. She was seen by multiple witnesses walking along Highway 18. She ran into the woods when approached by a motorist trying to help. Some of her belongings were found in a shed near where she was last seen. Her book bag was found buried 30 miles away, carefully wrapped and preserved. Advanced DNA technology has identified potential connections to specific individuals. The case is now classified as a homicide investigation. No arrests have been made. What remains unknown? Why Asha left her home? where she was going, whether she was meeting someone or following instructions. What happened to her after she ran into the woods? Where her remains are, if she did not survive. Whether anyone will ever be held accountable. The investigation continues. Prosecutors are reportedly evaluating whether sufficient evidence exists to bring charges. For Harold and Aquila Degree, now in their 60s, the wait continues. For O'Brien, now 30 years old, the shadow of his sister's disappearance will always be part of his life. For the community of Shelby, Asha's name remains a reminder that sometimes children vanish, and sometimes the answers we desperately seek remain just out of reach. Justice delayed is justice denied. After 25 years, Asha Degree deserves answers. Her family deserves closure. And if someone is responsible for her disappearance, they deserve to be held accountable. But only if the evidence proves their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, in a court of law, with all the protections our justice system requires. Until then, we wait and hope. And remember a 9-year-old girl who loved basketball, worked hard in school, and disappeared into the night, taking the answers with her. While investigators work to determine whether sufficient evidence exists for prosecution, the search for Asha's remains continues. Because until her body is found, there will always be uncertainty about what happened to her and whether the investigative theories are correct. In the summer of 2024, after the FBI searches of a family in Cleveland County properties, cadaver dogs are brought to multiple locations throughout Cleveland and Burke counties. These are highly trained animals capable of detecting human decomposition chemicals even decades after death, and even through barriers like concrete or metal. The dogs alert at several locations, prompting excavation crews to carefully dig and sift through soil, looking for any trace of human remains. Each alert generates both hope and dread. Hope that Asha will finally be found and given a proper burial. Dread at the confirmation of what her family has feared for 25 years. But the excavations yield nothing. Cadaver dogs can alert on decomposition from animals or other organic material, and whatever they detected was not Asha. Investigators also use ground-penetrating radar on various properties. This technology can detect anomalies below the surface, disturbed soil, density changes, voids that might indicate burial sites. Several locations are flagged for further investigation, but excavations produce no results. The frustrating reality is that Cleveland and Burke counties encompass hundreds of square miles of forests, farmland, abandoned properties, and waterways. Even with advanced technology, finding remains that may have been buried or disposed of 25 years ago is extraordinarily difficult. Investigators have also explored water locations, lakes, rivers, quarries, any body of water where remains might have been concealed. Dive teams have searched locations that seemed promising based on various investigative leads, but the murky waters and years of accumulated sediment make finding anything incredibly challenging. One investigative consideration is that Asha's remains might be in a location that has since been developed. Between 2000 and 2025, Cleveland County saw significant growth. Farmland became subdivisions. Forests were cleared for commercial development. If remains were buried in a location that later had a building constructed over it, or a road paved across it, they might be sealed beneath concrete or asphalt. The FBI has created a detailed timeline of properties in Cleveland and Burke counties that were vacant or undeveloped in February 2000 but have since been built upon. They're working through this list methodically, though investigating each location without cause for excavation is legally and practically complex. Another avenue of investigation involves historical phone records and cell tower data. While cell phone technology in 2000 was far less sophisticated than today, some records still exist. However, cell tower data from that era is imprecise and can only place a phone within a broad geographic area, not a specific location. Additionally, the presence of a phone in an area does not indicate what the person was doing there or whether they were involved in any criminal activity. In March 2025, the FBI makes a public appeal. They release a statement asking anyone who worked in construction, excavation, road building, or land development in Cleveland or Burke counties between 2000 and 2010 to review any photos, documents, or memories from that period. The appeal specifically asks, did you work on a project where you noticed disturbed soil that seemed unusual? Did you discover anything during excavation that you reported to supervisors? Did you see anything that, in hindsight, might be relevant to Asha Degree's disappearance? This appeal generates dozens of tips. One construction worker reports that in 2002, while excavating for a commercial building foundation in Burke County, his crew uncovered what might have been a plastic-wrapped bundle. The worker's memory is uncertain. It was over 20 years ago, and construction sites often contain buried debris and trash. Investigators examined the location. The commercial building is still standing, a strip mall that houses several businesses. Ground-penetrating radar shows anomalies consistent with disturbed soil beneath the foundation. But to investigate further would require tearing up the parking lot and potentially the building itself. Significant expense and disruption for what may be an inaccurate memory or misidentified object. The decision is made to preserve this lead while continuing to gather additional information. If concrete evidence emerges that strongly suggests this location, further action could be taken. In criminal investigations, the decision to undertake destructive searches must be balanced against the strength of the evidence and the likelihood of success. Aquila and Harold Degree, now in their mid-60s, have never stopped searching. Every few months, they organize volunteer search parties that comb through woods near Highway 18, looking for anything that might be Asha. These searches are heartbreaking. Volunteers find all sorts of things: old shoes, discarded toys, animal remains. Each discovery prompts a moment of terrible hope. Could this be Asha? Followed by the crushing realization that it's not. O'Brien, Asha's brother, participates in some searches but finds them emotionally overwhelming. He was 13 when his sister disappeared. He's now 37, with memories of Asha that have begun to fade around the edges. He remembers her smile, her competitive spirit on the basketball court, the way she would talk to him in the darkness of their shared bedroom before sleep. But the details, the exact sound of her laugh, the specific things she said, those have eroded under the weight of 25 years. He feels guilty about this erosion, as if forgetting details betrays his sister. But this is the cruel mathematics of time. Every year that passes, every day that doesn't bring answers, moves Asha further from living memory and toward historical fact. The Falston community has changed dramatically since 2000. Many of the families who lived there when Asha disappeared have moved away. The elementary school where she attended has been renovated, its classrooms filled with children who weren't born when Asha walked out into that storm. The church where she worshipped has new pastoral leadership, new congregants, new concerns. But Asha is not forgotten. A memorial bench sits near Falston Elementary with her name engraved on it. Asha Degree, Shelby's sweetheart, gone but not forgotten. Flowers are regularly placed there, left by people who never met Asha but who have been moved by her story. On Highway 18, near where Asha was last seen, there's a missing persons billboard that has displayed her age-progressed image for over 15 years. The billboard is maintained by donations from community members who refuse to let her case fade into obscurity. Every few years, the image is updated to reflect what Asha might look like at her current age. In 2025, the billboard shows what she might look like at 34, a mature woman with the same bright eyes and hopeful smile, but aged in ways she never got to experience in reality. Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church, where the Degree family still attends, holds a memorial service every February. The congregation prays for Asha's soul, for Harold and Aquila's strength, for justice to finally prevail. The church's pastor, who knew Asha as a child, speaks about her kindness, her quiet strength, the way she embodied faith even at 9 years old. Asha believed in goodness, the pastor said at the 2024 service. She trusted people. She saw the best in others. And someone may have betrayed that trust in a terrible way. But we do not let tragedy have the final word. We remember Asha. We seek truth. And we believe that God sees everything, even what is hidden from us. The service always ends with a hymn that was Asha's favorite. His eye is on the sparrow. The lyrics carry particular resonance for a child who disappeared. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free, for his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. Aquila sings through tears every year. Harold stands beside her, his arm around her shoulders, his own tears falling silently. They have aged visibly in the 25 years since Asha disappeared. The lines on their faces are deeper, their hair grayer, their movements slower. But their determination has never wavered. Someone may know something, Harold tells reporters after the 2025 service. Someone might have seen something. Someone might have heard something. And we're asking, we're begging, for that person to come forward. For Asha. For truth. For peace. The reward now stands at over $100,000. Between the FBI contribution, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, the governor's office, and private donors who have been moved by Asha's story, the amount represents one of the largest rewards in North Carolina history for a missing child case. Investigators continue working to determine whether they have sufficient evidence to bring charges. What's needed for prosecution is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, the highest standard in American law. Whether the evidence collected meets that standard remains to be determined. Every day that passes without answers is another day that Asha remains lost. Another day that Harold and Aquila wake up in a house that still has their daughter's bedroom preserved exactly as she left it. Another day that O'Brien carries the weight of being Asha's brother. Another day that questions remain unanswered. Investigators hope that someone with information will come forward. Whether that will happen remains uncertain. The renewed activity in the Asha Degree case represents the convergence of multiple technological advances that didn't exist in 2000. Understanding how this case went from cold to active requires understanding how forensic science has evolved in the 21st century. Forensic genealogy, a new tool. In April 2018, investigators in California used a revolutionary technique to identify the Golden State Killer, a serial rapist and murderer who had evaded capture for 4 decades. They uploaded crime scene DNA to GEDmatch, a public genealogy database where people search for relatives by comparing genetic information. The DNA didn't match anyone directly, but it matched distant relatives, third cousins, fourth cousins, people who shared common ancestors with the perpetrator but didn't know him personally. Investigators then used traditional genealogy research to build family trees, identifying which branches led to individuals who lived in California during the crime spree. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office and FBI began applying forensic genealogy to Asha's case in 2021. The DNA recovered from her book bag in 2001 had been carefully preserved, but for 20 years it sat in evidence storage because there were no matches in criminal databases. The DNA belonged to people who had never been arrested, never been fingerprinted, never entered the justice system. But those same people might have relatives who used ancestry websites. People who uploaded their DNA to trace family history, find distant cousins, or learn about their ethnic heritage. People who had no idea their genetic information might be used in criminal investigations. The genealogists working on Asha's case uploaded the unknown DNA profiles to multiple databases. The initial results showed thousands of potential matches, family trees that branched in dozens of directions, requiring extensive work to trace connections. Gradually, certain patterns emerged. Certain surnames appeared repeatedly in the family trees. Certain geographic locations, Cleveland County, Burke County, surrounding areas, appeared frequently. The genealogists built comprehensive family trees for certain individuals living in Cleveland County in 2000. They identified which branches had daughters who would have been teenagers at the time. They cross-referenced with public records to narrow the pool of potential matches. The analysis suggested a family in Cleveland County as potential matches for the maternal DNA lineage found on Asha's clothing. But potential matches, based on genealogical analysis, is not the same as certain identification. Forensic genealogy provides investigative leads, not definitive proof. It can identify people who should be investigated, but it cannot prove those people committed crimes. The challenge of circumstantial evidence. The investigation into Asha's disappearance now relies heavily on circumstantial evidence, evidence that requires inference and interpretation rather than direct proof. This includes DNA evidence, potentially connects individuals to Asha's belongings, but DNA can be transferred innocently through casual contact or secondary transfer. Vehicle evidence. A car matching witness descriptions was owned by a person of interest, but many people owned similar vehicles. Unverified allegations. Reports of statements made years ago that were never documented or corroborated at the time. Behavioral evidence. Alleged reactions and communications that could have multiple innocent explanations. Circumstantial evidence can be powerful when multiple pieces point in the same direction, but it can also be misleading. Each piece requires careful interpretation, and alternative explanations must be considered. Digital forensics. The question of communications. When FBI agents executed search warrants at persons identified through forensic genealogy properties in September 2024, they seized electronic devices. According to unnamed sources, forensic examination of these devices allegedly revealed communications between family members. What has been reported, but not officially confirmed, includes claims about text messages showing concern about the investigation. However, several critical points must be emphasized. One, these reports come from unnamed sources, not official law enforcement statements. Two, the authenticity of any such communications has not been independently verified. Three, the context and complete content of alleged messages remain unknown. For concern about being investigated is not evidence of guilt. Innocent people also worry when they become subjects of criminal investigations. 5, defense attorneys have not had opportunity to challenge these claims or provide context. In American jurisprudence, evidence must be presented in court, subject to cross-examination and challenge. Media reports of alleged evidence should be treated with skepticism until officially confirmed and legally tested. The limitations of polygraph examinations. Reports suggest that polygraph examinations were administered to members of those connected to the investigation through genetic evidence, with at least one individual allegedly showing responses that examiners interpreted as deceptive. It's crucial to understand the severe limitations of polygraph evidence. Polygraphs are not admissible in most courts because they are considered unreliable. Innocent people frequently fail polygraphs due to anxiety, stress, fear of being falsely accused, or physiological conditions. Some guilty individuals pass polygraphs because they remain calm or believe their own lies. Polygraph results depend heavily on examiner interpretation, which is subjective. The questions asked, how they're phrased, and the testing environment all affect results. Polygraphs are investigative tools that may help investigators decide where to focus efforts, but they provide no reliable indication of actual guilt or innocence. Any alleged polygraph results in this case should be given minimal weight. Cell phone data, imprecise and circumstantial. Historical cell phone records from February 2000 are far less precise than modern cell phone tracking. Cell tower data from that era can only place a phone within a radius of several miles, not at a specific location. If records exist showing a phone connected to towers in certain areas, this could have numerous innocent explanations. Work-related travel, a visiting family or friends, running errands, coincidental presence in an area. The presence of a phone in a general area, without additional corroborating evidence, proves nothing about criminal activity. Defense attorneys would rightly challenge any attempt to use such imprecise data as evidence of guilt. The behavioral analysis perspective. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit has studied Asha's case, producing profiles of what type of person might have been involved. However, behavioral analysis is not evidence. It's educated speculation based on patterns from other cases. Behavioral profiles can help investigators decide where to focus their efforts, but they cannot identify specific individuals or prove guilt. Many people might fit a general behavioral profile without being involved in any crime. The suggestion that Asha was groomed by someone she knew remains a theory, not proven fact. While her behavior on February 14th suggests she may have been following instructions or meeting someone, alternative explanations exist. The prosecution's challenge: building a case without a body. Prosecuting a homicide without recovering the victim's body is one of the most difficult challenges in criminal law. While such prosecutions can succeed, they require meeting an extremely high burden of proof. What prosecutors would need to prove: one, that the victim is dead, not missing, not living elsewhere under a new identity. Two, that death resulted from criminal act, not accident, not natural causes. Three, that specific defendants caused the death, not someone else, not unknown perpetrators. Each of these elements must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The highest standard of proof in American law. Challenges the prosecution would face. Without a body, proving death requires strong circumstantial evidence. 25 years without contact is persuasive, but defense attorneys could argue other possibilities. Without a body, proving manner of death is nearly impossible. How did Asha die? When? Where? These questions are difficult to answer definitively. Without a body, connecting specific defendants to the death requires very strong evidence. DNA on clothing, ownership of a similar vehicle, and unverified allegations may not meet the beyond a reasonable doubt standard. No-body prosecutions are extremely rare and difficult to win. Juries are reluctant to convict without physical evidence. Defense attorneys will emphasize reasonable doubt at every opportunity. Alternative explanations for the evidence must be excluded. Could the DNA have gotten on clothing innocently? Could the vehicle sighting have been a different car? Could the alleged statements have been misheard or fabricated? Defense attorneys would have numerous valid arguments. The DNA evidence is consistent with innocent contact. Many people own similar vehicles. Unverified allegations from decades ago are unreliable hearsay. Polygraphs are not reliable indicators of anything. Cell tower data is too imprecise to prove specific locations. The absence of Asha's body means uncertainty about what actually happened. The presumption of innocence requires acquittal when reasonable doubt exists. The legal and ethical reality. As of April 2025, no charges have been filed in connection with Asha Degree's disappearance. The investigation continues, but whether prosecutors believe they have sufficient evidence for successful prosecution remains unknown. Several possibilities exist. One, prosecutors are still building the case, gathering additional evidence, hoping for additional witnesses or physical evidence. Two, prosecutors may be attempting to leverage plea agreements, offering reduced charges to potential witnesses in exchange for testimony. Three, prosecutors may conclude the evidence is insufficient for successful prosecution and the case may remain technically unsolved despite investigative focus on specific individuals. Four, new evidence may emerge that changes the entire direction of the investigation. What we know for certain: advanced forensic techniques have identified persons of interest. The investigation is now classified as a homicide. No charges have been filed. All persons of interest are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in court. The Degree family continues to seek answers after 25 years. What remains uncertain: whether the evidence is sufficient for prosecution, whether charges will ever be filed, whether a trial, if it occurs, would result in convictions, whether Asha's remains will ever be found. What actually happened on February 14, 2000? The American justice system requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt before anyone can be convicted of a crime. This is a high standard, deliberately so, designed to protect innocent people from wrongful conviction. In the Asha Degree case, investigators believe they have identified persons of interest. But belief is not proof. Focus is not evidence. And until a jury of 12 citizens unanimously agrees that guilt has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, the case remains legally unsolved. For Harold and Aquila Degree, the legal complexities matter less than the human reality. Their daughter has been gone for 25 years. They want answers. They want truth. They want justice. Whether they will receive any of those things remains uncertain. On the early morning of February 14, 2000, 9-year-old Asha Degree walked out of her home in Shelby, North Carolina, and disappeared into a storm. 25 years later, despite advanced forensic technology, despite extensive investigation, despite intense media attention, the fundamental questions remain unanswered. Why did Asha leave her home? Where was she going? What happened to her? Where are her remains? Investigators believe they may have identified persons of interest, but no charges have been filed. No trial has occurred. No convictions have been obtained. The case remains, technically, unsolved. What we know is this: a 9-year-old girl trusted someone or something enough to walk alone into a storm in the middle of the night. That trust, whether misplaced in a person or based on a childish misunderstanding or coerced through fear, led to tragedy. Asha Degree deserves justice. Her family deserves answers. And the truth, whatever it may be, deserves to be told. Until that day comes, Asha's case remains a reminder that sometimes children vanish, and sometimes the answers we desperately seek remain just beyond our reach. Hidden in sealed court documents, protected by attorney-client privilege, or buried in places we haven't yet searched. The investigation continues. Before Asha Degree became a case file, before she became a missing person poster, before she became a 25-year mystery, she was simply Asha, a 9-year-old girl with dreams and fears, talents and insecurities, a girl who loved basketball and hated thunderstorms, who was shy around strangers but silly with her family. She was born on August 5, 1990, at Cleveland Regional Medical Center, weighing 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Harold held her for the first time and cried, something he hadn't done since his own father died. Aquila counted her daughter's tiny fingers and toes, checked that everything was perfect, whispered promises about the life they would build together. Asha's first word was Mama. Her first steps came at 13 months, earlier than average, suggesting the athleticism that would later make her a star point guard. Her first day of school was marked by tears. She clung to Aquila's leg, terrified of being left with strangers. But by the end of that first day, she came home smiling, carrying a drawing she'd made, a house with a family in front, all holding hands. She loved purple. Her favorite food was her grandmother's macaroni and cheese, made with 4 different types of cheese and baked until the top formed a golden crust. She hated green beans, but would eat them if promised dessert. She collected Beanie Babies, keeping them arranged on her bed by size, and would become upset if anyone moved them. She was competitive. On the basketball court, Asha played with an intensity that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside, a determination to prove herself, to show that being small and shy didn't mean being weak. Her coach, Robert Pratt, remembered her defensive tenacity. Asha would guard girls twice her size and never back down. She had heart. That's what made her special. Her teammates remember her differently than the shy description that appeared in news reports. Asha wasn't shy on the court, said Jamaica Biggers, who played alongside her. She talked trash, she celebrated, she was loud. It was like she saved all her confidence for basketball and used it all up there. She wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. She filled notebooks with drawings of animals, dogs with elaborate collars, cats in various poses, horses running through fields. She begged her parents for a puppy, promising she would walk it every day and clean up after it. Harold and Aquila told her maybe when she was older, maybe when she proved she was responsible enough. She never got that chance. She was afraid of thunderstorms. This detail becomes particularly haunting when you realize she walked out into one on the night she disappeared. The crash of thunder, the flash of lightning, these terrified Asha. During storms, she would climb into her parents' bed, bury her face in her mother's shoulder, and cry until the thunder passed. So why did she walk out into a storm on February 14, 2000? What could possibly have been compelling enough to overcome that fear? Investigators believe someone convinced her that whatever was waiting was worth braving the thing that terrified her most. She loved Valentine's Day. The pink and red decorations, the candy hearts with messages, the cards exchanged at school. February 14th should have been a day of celebration for Asha, her parents' anniversary, a day of love and sweetness. Instead, it became the day she vanished, transforming Valentine's Day into an annual reminder of loss for the Degree family. She had a laugh that her brother O'Brien describes as contagious. When Asha found something truly funny, she would laugh until she couldn't breathe, doubled over with tears streaming down her face. O'Brien would deliberately try to make her laugh like that, inventing silly voices and exaggerated stories, because her joy was so pure and complete. He hasn't heard that laugh in 25 years. She was good at math, but struggled with spelling. She read at grade level, but preferred books about animals to fiction. She was learning to play the recorder in music class and would practice at home, producing sounds that Harold jokingly called the Dying Cat Symphony. But he never told her to stop practicing. He wanted her to pursue everything that interested her, to explore every possibility. She wanted to be tall. Being the smallest player on her basketball team bothered her, even though her size gave her advantages in speed and agility. She would ask Aquila, "When will I get my growth spurt?" Aquila would assure her it was coming, that she would probably be tall like Harold's side of the family. It was a lie told from love. The Degree family tends toward average height, but Aquila wanted her daughter to have hope. She never got that growth spurt. She stopped at 4 feet, 6 inches, forever 9 years old. She was learning to braid her own hair. The intricate cornrows that Aquila created each week were Asha's pride, and she wanted to learn the skill herself. Aquila would guide her hands, showing her the pattern, the tension, the technique. Asha wasn't very good yet. Her braids were uneven and loose, but she was improving. Another few months, and she would have mastered it. She never got those few months. She had a habit of chewing on her pencils when concentrating on homework. The pencils found in her book bag when it was discovered show teeth marks, tiny indentations from a 9-year-old trying to solve math problems or remember spelling words. Those teeth marks are among the most personal pieces of evidence in the case. A reminder that Asha was a real child with real habits, not just a name in a case file. She sang in the children's choir at Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church. Her voice was quiet, often lost among the louder children, but she loved being part of the group. Music director Evelyn Patterson remembered Asha's serious face during performances, how she concentrated intensely on getting every word right, how she lit up when the congregation applauded. She wanted to visit Disney World. She had never been further from Shelby than Myrtle Beach, and the idea of Magic Kingdom with its castle and characters seemed impossibly exciting. Harold and Aquila had started saving for the trip, planning to take both children during summer 2000. The money they saved is still in an account, untouched for 25 years, because using it for anything else feels like admitting Asha will never come home. She gave the best hugs, according to everyone who knew her, despite her shyness. Once Asha decided she trusted someone, she would throw her arms around them with complete abandon, squeezing tight, her small body radiating warmth and affection. Aquila says she can still feel those hugs sometimes, phantom sensations of her daughter's arms around her waist, and for a moment, just a moment, Asha feels present again. She had a birthmark on her left shoulder, slightly darker than the surrounding skin, shaped vaguely like a butterfly if you looked at it right. Aquila used to kiss that birthmark, call it Asha's angel kiss. Tell her that angels had touched her there to mark her as special. That birthmark, along with dental records and DNA, is how Asha will be officially identified if her remains are ever recovered. She wanted a baby sister. O'Brien was fine as a brother, but Asha desperately wanted a little sister she could help raise, could teach things to, could dress up and play with. She would tell Aquila about names she liked: Destiny, Princess, Jasmine, names that made Aquila smile at their 9-year-old grandiosity. Aquila would explain that having another baby wasn't something you just decide to do, that there were many factors to consider. But secretly, she and Harold had discussed it. Maybe one more child. Maybe a little sister for Asha. They never had that third child. After Asha disappeared, the idea of bringing another child into their grief felt impossible. She left behind a bedroom full of memories. The Beanie Babies still arranged on her bed. The purple curtains Aquila sewed by hand. The basketball signed by her whole team from the 1999 to 2000 season. The homework assignments pinned to a corkboard, including a creative writing piece titled My Perfect Day, where Asha described playing basketball, eating her grandmother's mac and cheese, and spending time with her family. The last line of that assignment reads, "My perfect day would be every day if I could." She left behind a family forever changed by her absence. Harold and Aquila's marriage has survived, barely, held together by shared grief and determination to find their daughter. But the cost has been enormous. Marriages often fail after a child's death or disappearance. The statistics are grim. The Degrees have stayed together, but they admit it hasn't been easy. Some days, looking at each other reminds them too painfully of what they lost. She left behind a brother who grew up in the shadow of her disappearance. O'Brien is now 37, a husband and father himself. But he will always be Asha Degree's brother first. He's made peace with this, mostly. He speaks at missing children's events, sharing his perspective as the sibling left behind, advocating for families navigating similar tragedies. But sometimes, late at night, he allows himself to be angry. Angry at whoever took his sister, angry at the universe for this injustice, angry that his childhood ended at 13. She left behind a community that has never forgotten. Shelby, North Carolina is a different town than it was in 2000, but Asha's memory permeates it. Parents still use her story to teach their children about safety. Teachers still include her case in lessons about missing children. Churches still pray for her family. And every February, the community comes together to walk the route Asha walked, to remember the girl who became their collective daughter. She left behind questions that have haunted investigators for 25 years. She also left behind evidence that continues to be analyzed. Hair on her undershirt, DNA on her book bag, a concert t-shirt that didn't belong to her, and cell tower records. Asha Degree was not just a missing child. She is a person who mattered, who had value beyond her disappearance, who deserves to be remembered not for how she vanished, but for how she lived. She was Shelby's sweetheart, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a teammate, a girl who loved basketball and hated thunderstorms, who wanted to be tall and dreamed of Disney World, who gave the best hugs and had a laugh that could light up a room. And someone took her away. Someone stole her future, her growth spurt, her trip to Disney World, her chance to braid her own hair and become a veterinarian and have the baby sister she wanted. But that person didn't steal her memory. They didn't erase her impact. They didn't silence the voices calling for justice. For Asha Degree, born August 5, 1990, last seen February 14, 2000, forever 9 years old, forever Shelby's sweetheart, forever loved, forever missed, forever unforgotten. February 14, 2000, a 9-year-old girl walks out of her home into a thunderstorm, carrying a book bag packed with specific items, wearing white clothes, heading toward Highway 18. Investigators believe she was meeting someone she trusted. 25 years later, the investigation has made significant progress. DNA evidence, text messages, cell tower records, polygraph tests, and other evidence have led authorities to focus on specific persons of interest. Law enforcement sources indicate that the case has been reclassified as a homicide investigation. As of this recording, no arrests have been made and no charges have been filed. All persons of interest are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Sources indicate that investigators are building their case and preparing evidence for potential prosecution. Based on law enforcement statements and available evidence, investigators theorize that Asha may have been befriended by someone who gained her trust, convinced her to leave home on the night of February 13th to 14th, and met her on Highway 18. The investigation suggests she was taken to a secondary location where she died, and her book bag was later buried in Morganton. However, these remain theories under investigation, and the full truth has yet to be established in court. For Harold and Aquila Degree, the ongoing investigation brings mixed emotions. They have always known, on some level, that finding Asha alive after so many years was unlikely. But hope is a stubborn thing, and Aquila's insistence that "I fully expect her to walk through the door" was as much shield against unbearable truth as genuine belief. Now, with the case being investigated as a homicide, that hope must be reconciled with reality. But in its place comes something else, the possibility of answers. The knowledge that investigators are actively pursuing leads and that someone may be held accountable. After 25 years of questions, they may finally get closure. For O'Brien, who has lived his entire adult life as Asha's brother, the developments bring a sense of hope. He has always maintained that someone knew something, that the answer was out there, that persistence would eventually pay off. For Shelby, North Carolina, the ongoing investigation serves as a reminder that cases are never truly cold when dedicated investigators keep working. The community continues to support the Degree family and hopes for resolution. If you have any information about Asha Degree's disappearance, if you were in the area in February 2000, if you saw something that morning, if you have heard anything over the years, please contact the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office at 704-484-4822 or the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Your information, even if it seems insignificant, might be crucial to the investigation. Someone may know where Asha Degree is. Someone may have information about what happened. That information could allow Harold and Aquila to finally lay their daughter to rest, to give her a proper funeral, to have a grave they can visit. For Asha Degree, for Shelby's sweetheart, for justice. This case remains under active investigation. A 9-year-old girl walked into a storm and never came home. For 25 years, her family searched. For 25 years, questions remained unanswered. But investigators never gave up, and the case remains active. If this case moved you, please leave a like on this video. It helps YouTube's algorithm share Asha's story with more people. Someone watching might have information. Someone might know something. Every share, every view, every comment keeps attention on this case. Subscribe to Cold Case Dossier and hit that notification bell so you never miss a case. We investigate history's most baffling unsolved mysteries with thorough research, respectful treatment of victims, and commitment to truth. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. Asha's story happened in North Carolina, but missing children cases happen everywhere. These stories connect us all, reminding us that every child matters, every family deserves answers. What are your thoughts on this case? Comment below, but please be respectful. This is an active investigation, and Asha's family may see these comments. Do not name potential suspects or make accusations, as doing so could harm the ongoing investigation and may have legal consequences. Share this video. Asha Degree's case has gotten far less national attention than it deserves, partly because of the missing while black phenomenon that Aquila Degree courageously spoke about. By sharing this video, you help ensure that missing children of color get the same attention, the same resources, the same justice as everyone else. Our next case takes us to the Pacific Northwest, where 3 Boy Scouts on a camping trip witnessed something unusual that would change their lives forever. Subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation. Remember, these aren't just mysteries. They're real children who deserve to grow up, real families still searching for answers, real communities changed forever by loss. Every view matters. Every share matters. Every person who learns Asha's name matters. For Asha Degree, born August 5, 1990, last seen February 14, 2000, Shelby's sweetheart. May her case find resolution. This is Cold Case Dossier. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember that justice requires patience, evidence, and due process.